I've just come off of doing 4 hours worth of research into the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And I found it fascinatingly interesting. From what I've gathered, I'm not an expert in it after 4 hours worth of research. That's not enough, not near enough research into it to call myself an expert in it. But I've come to what I would call a basic rudimentary understanding of what they're trying to do. And I'm amazed at what they're going to be able to do. And now that I know what they're going to be able to do, they're going to be able to make Bitcoin scale. And if you don't know what I mean by that, is I mean they are actually talking about being able to do 14 billion transactions a day on the Bitcoin network. We're talking about microtransactions. We're talking about you being able to go out and say all your subscriptions to magazines on the internet. Be able to pay 2 pennies to this company, 2 pennies to that company, pay 2 pennies to that company. You can't do any of these microtransactions right now. You can't do a 2-penny transaction on your Visa card. They won't take it. You know, Visa's not scalable compared to the way Bitcoin is going to be scalable. They're talking about actually being able to do 14 billion transactions each and every day on the Bitcoin network. And microtransactions that cost almost nothing. Of course, Bitcoin right now is not this way, but this is what they're gonna do when they were able to implement this Lightning Network. Typically, I guess how it works is they sign things off somehow, off of the main blockchain. They sign off or have a signature off somehow. And it's almost like they've created their own little chain then. So, to try to explain it, let me see, how would I explain it? Say there was a taxi guy, and his name was Bob, and he owned a taxi company. And say his secretary's name was Jane. Say Bob gave Jane $1, $1, and he said, okay, now I'm taking this out of the petty funds for the company, and he writes it down on a piece of paper. I just gave Jane $1. So he hands the dollar to Jane. Okay, now it's been signed off. And he puts a time note on it. He says 12 hours. You got 12 hours with this dollar. Here's your dollar for 12 hours. Hands her the dollar. Now, say she runs out with the dollar, and she runs across the street and buys a coffee with it. So she spent the dollar. She's got 12 hours, I guess, to do whatever she wants, as long as she returns that dollar back to the taxi cab manager. So say that dollar goes out, and first it buys a coffee, and say then it goes out and somebody takes it to the bank and changes it into 100 pennies, and then the 100 pennies get transferred back into 20 nickels, and then the 20 nickels get transferred back, and somebody spends it for candy, and then it gets transferred back to quarters, and then somebody spends it in pennies again, and then they spend it all for another bunch of candies again, and say some other guy gets a hold of it, and he runs out and buys another coffee with it, and so on and so forth. And say they do all day long, they do transactions with that dollar, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Here, there, everywhere, all over the city. And at the end of the day, finally they bring that dollar back to the coffee lady, at the lady who bought the coffee originally, Jane, and hand her the dollar. And then she finally signs that dollar back in. It's only recorded to him. He doesn't care if that dollar changed hands 24,000 times in that 12 hours. All he cares about is that she's handing him back $1. And all those other transactions are almost like they're meaningless. They're recorded. Say she records them off on a different slip of paper. All the sub-transactions. Right? But what he really cares about is recording that final transaction back on his time slip and his slip of paper. So she hands him the dollar back, and then he writes it down on his slip of paper, dollar paid back, time initiated, whatever, how many hours, 12 hours, within the 12-hour period, and he takes that dollar and carefully puts it back in his box of petty funds. So now what's happened is is all those other transactions. Say she had them do 5,000 other transactions. It's like all of that didn't matter anymore. It's like it was all was done off of a different ledger. It's that what matters is that loop away and loop back. And somehow, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I'm trying to explain what I gather how it works. This is how the Lightning Network works. They do this time loop or something, and they come back, and when they come back, all these myriad of transactions are done. Could be, I don't know, maybe they might separate from the main blockchain for 6 months. And during that 6 months, they might do 20 billion transactions, and then they come back in, they join it into the main blockchain, and everything adds up on the main blockchain again. It's something like that, something to that effect. Now, I'm not, like I told you, I'm not an expert, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what this actually accomplishes. What it actually accomplishes is it makes Bitcoin scalable. That's the real important part. The real important bit. I might have got a few things a little bit wrong when I tried to explain it just now. I might not have got it just exactly right, how it works. But the real important bit is that Bitcoin will be able to do microtransactions. And if you don't know what a microtransaction is, I'll explain it to you right now. It's a tiny little transaction like 2 pennies. Right now, you can't do a transaction like that because the people's time it takes to record off the transaction takes more than the transaction's worth. So this will enable a whole bunch of new companies to spring up that deal in small little payments, micropayments, especially on the internet. You can just imagine now how many people are going to see a penny might not seem like much, but add 1 billion of them up and how much you got. Suddenly new companies will spring up dealing with microtransactions. You know? And this makes a whole new industry. Not only does it make a whole new industry, it enables Bitcoin to be scalable so that they can use it worldwide for all these small purchases. Now, as this spreads out, this is also going to spread out the amount 1 Satoshi is worth. Right now, 1 Satoshi is worth like not very much. Like if you buy 1 Bitcoin for what, $3,400, right? You're getting 99,999,999 of those little son of guns. So you're not paying very much for each one, because you're buying almost 100 million of them for what, $3,400. So breaking it down, how much is that each? That's like almost nothing. I mean, to compare it, if we move them up to 1 penny each, which is still cheap for a Satoshi, that's cheap. 1 penny each. Well, 99,999,000 pennies is $1 million. So that's $1 million of Bitcoin. So you see, when these microtransactions get so that you're sending like 50 Satoshis to somebody for a cup of coffee, you know, that means that the Satoshis by then will be worth a nickel apiece. Because a cup of coffee is $2 now, right? So you send 50 Satoshis to this guy on the street corner, and he hands you a hot cup of Java, right? That's worth $2. That means a Satoshi is worth 4 cents each. That means that the 99,999,000 Satoshis is now worth $4 million, if I'm doing the math right. That means 1 Bitcoin's $4 million at that point. And now Bitcoin is scalable through the Lightning Network. So you see, what we're dealing with right now, we're dealing with something that is really, these guys out there saying, hey, you know, Bitcoin is in a bubble, 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 bubble. You know, Bitcoin is just beginning. This is like the internet when it was in its infancy. And this is the new way people are going to send money. And I'm excited. I'm going to tell you, I'm excited when I see this new microtransaction and what this will enable Bitcoin to scale out to. And these guys are talking 14 billion transactions a day. Everybody's going to have to then have a little Bitcoin. And there's only 20 million of them to go around? And everybody's going to want a little piece? on their cell phone to buy coffee with or whatever with microtransactions? 14 billion transactions a day? Scalable to? Can we see where this is going? Bare minimum, I'm thinking $100,000 a coin. That's where I think it could be actually going, ultimately. Now, sure, it's a roller coaster ride. Right now, Bitcoin's at 3,400. She's rode up here awful quick, from down what, $200 to 3,400. That's a long way to go up. The thing is, she's probably going to roll. The roller coaster could roll back down the hill again for a ways, maybe back down to $1,000 even. And everybody will be saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's dead! It's dead! It's dead! It's dead!" Meanwhile, while it's down at $1,000, they'll be working on this Lightning Network. So when she comes back next time, she's going to come back stronger than ever. The best strategy with something like this is to buy and hold. Buy and hold and be stubborn. Be stubborn. And ultimately, you will profit in the end. You'll profit like you've never profited off of anything before, ultimately, because Bitcoin is just going to keep... I don't see anything stopping it. I see them working on this, like this Lightning Network, and getting it down pat in a few years so that it works just as good as anything you've ever seen before. I mean, Bitcoin works pretty good right now, but I can see this whole thing just becoming the new money of the future. And a lot of people say, well, what if the internet goes down? This money's worth nothing. Well, I'll tell you what, they've got us geared now, so if the internet goes down, we're not worth nothing. We'll all die. We won't have any food or water if the internet goes down. All communications, if you didn't know it, like all trucking is all done on the internet. It's all done. All the trucking is done on the internet. All the banking is done on the internet. Everything is done on the internet. Your power is done on the internet. If the internet goes on, your power won't even come on. I don't even think the power companies could turn the power on unless the internet's on, and they can't turn the internet on unless the power's on. This whole situation that we've got into, they've never tested any of this stuff beforehand. They've never done a worldwide test of internet and everything that they've done. They've rushed us into this whole thing, and here we are, and now they can't pull the rug out, because they pull the rug out, the whole system comes down. You know? And so this is the kind of situation we're in. So we got to make the best of it. And the best of it is realizing that this is the new money that's coming. The quicker you can get your head around that, the quicker you're going to be able to profit from it and get on the other side of this whole thing, and perhaps not end up living in one of those vans like in my last episode, you know, because your cryptocurrency, you can have a brain wallet, for crying out loud. 12 stupid words like apple, pear, grape, persimmon, lemon, lime, banana in your head, you know, something like that. And all of a sudden, you know, you got this brain wallet, like these simple 12 words, and you can enter them in, and of course, now listen, fellas, I just made those up off the top of my head. That's not my brain wallet. I'm not that stupid. Anyway, you can have these 12 words in your head, you know, and you can just run them through a little dinky thing you get off the internet, and it'll transform them into a private key. Those 12 words. And that private key will get you back into your coins again. And so it was almost ludicrously funny, because I seen this article on the internet, talked about this these border crossing guards, you know, and they're looking through this guy's bag, you know how they are, and they saw one of these Bitcoin things that you know, the thing that, like, it's the sign of Bitcoin, you know, the round thing is Bitcoin, is a Bitcoin, you know, and they saw that and they said, "You got a Bitcoin." Guy says, "That's not a Bitcoin." They said, "That's just a logo, Bitcoin logo." And they say, "No, that's a Bitcoin. You're trying to smuggle Bitcoins through the border." Meanwhile, there was probably a guy going through, You know, right next to him, they probably had a brain wallet. Good luck on finding the brain wallet. I can see it next. Next they're going to say, you got a Bitcoin. You got it in your brain wallet. Quick, open his head up. I got to dig in there and find that brain wallet and dig it out. Though I better not give them any ideas, you know. They're bad enough as it is. I mean, they'll get you there and they'll start sniffing up your backsides, up your britches, patting you around and everything, patting you all around your gears. For what? As if you're going to have something around your gears. Anyway, you know, it's ridiculous. Well, I guess there are a few cases, you know, there's been a few cases, just talking here, there's been a few cases of people trying to smuggle drugs and stuff by swallowing balloons. They put drugs in balloons and stuff like that, you know, and they get caught. A couple times they've died, you know, people's died that way because the stuff ruptures or whatever inside them. I just think that's all silliness, you know. Myself. Anyway, I've talked a lot today about this stuff, but the Lightning Network, getting back to the Lightning Network, it is really important. This is really important. This is a game changer for the whole system. Micropayments, I mean, this is unbelievable. When they are actually able to adopt micropayments into the system, and you can actually pay somebody like 2 cents, and you can send it to them, and they'll actually get it. You know, and it's not going to cost any more than 2 cents to send it. The companies that'll spring up from being able to allow these micropayments is really exciting. I'm just sitting here thinking about YouTube and stuff, you know, when people can only pay like 2 pennies. Well, that might not sound like much, but heck, if you've got 100,000 people sending you 2 pennies every month, you're made. You know, what would that be anyway? 100,000 people sending you 2 pennies. That would be 200,000 pennies, and it would be what? I'm not sure what that is. 200,000 pennies. Is that 200,000 pennies? Is that either $200 or $2,000? I don't know. I can't do the math that quick offhand, you know. Anyway, it's either 200 or 2,000. I know it's not 20. It's more than 20. It's either 200 or 2,000. Either way, you know, an extra couple hundred every month or a couple thousand, it would be really something, you know. But if they sent 20 cents, I know that would be in the thousands. Anyway, so this microtransaction business, I think that this sounds pretty darn good. And you can see why, because I got a YouTube channel here, and anyway, I get a lot of views every month, and it could really add up if I had microtransactions somehow with this Bitcoin. I think that's a great idea. But not only that, is I can see it expanding out for so many different things, and so rapidly once they get this, you know. Bitcoin then could scale to be the only currency for the whole world. You wouldn't need all these altcoins once they get the Lightning Network installed and up and working. And if Bitcoin is the first guys to get this Lightning Network up and installed and working, why, they might make all these other coins superfluous because they might not be able to compete. Just exactly what I just said. You heard what I said. They wouldn't need all these other coins. Bitcoin could handle the whole thing all by themselves with the Lightning Network installed. 14 billion transactions a day just on Bitcoin alone. That's like 100 times what Visa does. You know? Visa can't scale out to that. The Legacy Network can't scale out to that. They're stuck. Their scaling is limited, and Bitcoin would be superior to them even. And so Bitcoin and Litecoin was originally designed with Bitcoin, if you didn't know, to be silver to Bitcoin's gold. So Litecoin's in there too. But what about these other coins that are coming in and vying for these spots? They might not make it because the original coins have a first mover advantage, and if they scale out quick enough, well, these other coins just won't be needed. It's kind of like this. I'll explain it to you this way. If there's two guys working on a crew, you know, and say they started the job, two guys, Bill and Sam. So Bill and Sam come and they started the job digging ditches, but they were kind of sick. They had the flu, you know, so they were digging really slow. So the foreman, he says, listen, you two guys aren't quite cutting it. He says, I'm going to keep you on because you're doing pretty good work here. You know, you're digging these ditches, you two guys, but I'm going to hire 5 more guys. So he hires 5 more guys, and he has them digging ditches. But all of a sudden, these two guys get over the flu, and they start to dig at double, triple speed. The workman looks over, and he says, you guys can cut it now. You're not sick anymore, and you're digging it 5 times as fast as you used to, and you guys are doing all the work I ever need. All you other guys, you can go home. You can go home. We don't need you anymore. These two guys are handling it all right here. You know? And that's what might happen. In which case, all of the world's money might be transferred over to these two networks that are handling it all by themselves. Have any of you guys ever considered that? And I know you got these other coins that you love, you know, you're in love with them, but they might all go the way of the Goonie bird. That's the bird that went extinct. They might all go that way, where they might all go extinct. And maybe just all the money will be absorbed by the main coin. It always has been the main coin. It's always been the power coin of the world. It's the first at it. And if they can make it a scale out, like they're talking, it might stay the champ forever. Nothing will stop it. Because let's face it, what if each and every Satoshi that's in a Bitcoin were to go to what the dollar's worth? So $1 a Satoshi. Well, then you're looking at $100 million per coin. You know? And so if it went to one monetary unit being worth $1, which is, I don't see it as being impossible. So listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next article. Bye.